I'm sitting in a hospital bed right now, staring at where my left arm used to be. They had to take it off below the elbow 3 weeks ago. The doctors keep asking me what happened, and I keep telling them it was a hunting accident. That's technically true, I guess. We were hunting. But what we found up in those Idaho mountains wasn't any bear. The stump still hurts. Phantom pain, they call it. My brain keeps sending signals to fingers that aren't there anymore. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night trying to flex a hand that doesn't exist. The nurses are kind about it. They've seen worse, they tell me. They haven't seen what I saw. My buddy in the next wing over still hasn't said a word since they brought us in. Just stares at the wall. The psychiatrist visits him twice a day now. They've diagnosed him with severe post-traumatic stress disorder and acute dissociative disorder. Clinical terms for a mind that's broken. I visited him yesterday, sat in a chair next to his bed for an hour. He didn't look at me once, didn't even acknowledge I was there. Just kept staring at that blank white wall like it held all the answers. Our third friend never made it out of those woods. Search teams looked for 2 weeks before they gave up. They told his family it was a bear attack. I didn't correct them. What would be the point? They wouldn't believe the truth anyway. Nobody does. The search coordinator showed me photos of what they found. Just his torn backpack and one boot. No body, no remains, just vanished into that mountain like he never existed. I need to write this down while I still remember it clearly, before my mind starts playing tricks on me and I convince myself it was just a bear, because it wasn't. What killed our friend and took my arm wasn't anything that's supposed to exist. The insurance company wants a detailed statement. The police closed their investigation, but the family wants answers. And I owe it to my friend to tell what really happened up there. It started with a phone call on a Tuesday morning. I was drinking coffee on my porch when my cell rang. Unknown number, Idaho area code. I almost didn't answer, almost let it go to voicemail. I think about that sometimes, how different things would be if I just ignored that call. The voice on the other end was rough, older, said his name didn't matter, but he was a farmer up near the Sawtooth Range. He had a problem. Something had been killing his livestock for the past 2 months. Started with chickens back in late summer. He'd lost maybe a dozen before he even realized something was wrong. Thought maybe it was coyotes or a fox. But then whatever it was got bolder, moved on to sheep. He lost 3 in one night, found them in the morning torn apart in their pen. The fence hadn't been broken, no holes dug underneath. Whatever killed them had just climbed right over an 8-foot fence. Then last week it got one of his calves, a healthy heifer that should have been safe in the barn. Found her in the morning, dragged halfway across the pasture, dead, neck broken. 3 nights before he called me, it killed his horse, a big quarter horse gelding named Duke. 15 hands high, probably 1,200 pounds. Whatever got it was strong enough to break that animal's neck and drag it 200 yards into the tree line. The farmer's voice cracked when he told me about the horse. Said he'd had Duke for 16 years. I asked him why he didn't call animal control. He was quiet for a long moment. I could hear him breathing on the other end. Heavy breaths like he was choosing his words carefully. Then he said he already had. They came out 2 weeks ago, looked around, said it was probably a black bear, set some traps, professional leg hold traps that could catch and hold a 600-pound bear. The traps were torn apart the next night. Not sprung, torn apart, ripped into pieces and scattered across his property. Heavy steel traps weighing 40 pounds each. Destroyed like they were made of cardboard. The horse died the night after that. He offered good money, $500 a day for each of us, plus another $2,000 if we actually dealt with whatever was doing this. For 3 hunters who usually work construction in the off-season, that was hard to turn down. The hunting season had been slow that year. Money was tight. I told him I'd talk to my buddies and call him back within the hour. I called them both right away. We had been hunting together for almost 15 years, met in high school and stayed close. Done everything from deer to elk to the occasional mountain lion when the permits allowed. We'd taken down a black bear once, years ago, when one got into campsites up near Glacier. A problem bear didn't sound like anything we couldn't handle. They were both interested, both needed the money. I called the farmer back 40 minutes later and told him we'd be there by Thursday evening. He gave me the address and coordinates, said he'd have a place for us to set up camp near his property line, told me to bring plenty of ammunition. That stuck with me. The way he said it, not like advice, like a warning. His voice still had that strange quality to it, like he was scared but trying to hide it, like he knew something he wasn't telling us. I asked him if there was anything else we should know, any other details that might help. He was quiet again. Then he said the attacks always came from the north, from the ridge near the old forest, said we'd know it when we saw it, told us to be careful up there. Then he hung up. I sat there holding the phone for a minute. Something about the whole conversation felt wrong. But the money was good, and we needed it, so I pushed the feeling aside. We spent Wednesday getting our gear together. All three of us had good rifles. I had a Winchester Model 70 in .300 Win Mag, good for anything from deer to elk to bear. My older buddy had a Remington 700 in .30-006, classic hunting rifle. My younger buddy preferred his Savage 110 in .308. All three of us had been shooting these rifles for years, knew them inside and out. We packed plenty of ammunition, 100 rounds each, more than we'd ever need for a bear hunt, but the farmer's warning was stuck in my head. We brought our camping equipment, 3-man tent, sleeping bags rated for below freezing, portable stove, enough food for a week, mostly canned goods and dried meat, first aid supplies, emergency blanket, flares, standard backcountry stuff. We even joked about who would get the kill shot. My older buddy bet $20 it would be him, said his .30-06 had better stopping power at range. My younger buddy said it didn't matter because he'd see it first. I told them they were both wrong. Looking back now, that conversation makes me sick. How casual we were, how confident, like we were just going after another deer. Thursday morning, we loaded up my truck, Ford F-250 with a camper shell, good vehicle for rough terrain. We threw all our gear in the back and headed out around 7. It's about a 6-hour drive from where we live in Montana to that part of Idaho. We took turns driving, stopped once for gas and coffee. The weather was clear, temperature dropping as we got closer to the mountains. The roads got worse the further we went. The highway was fine, but once we turned off onto the county roads, it deteriorated fast. Pavement gave way to gravel, gravel gave way to dirt. The last 40 minutes were on roads that barely qualified as roads at all. Deep ruts from spring runoff, rocks everywhere, fallen branches. My truck has good clearance and 4-wheel drive, but even then I was worried about the undercarriage. We bottomed out twice, heard the scrape of metal on rock. We reached the property around 4 in the afternoon. The farmhouse was old, really old, probably built in the 50s or maybe even earlier, white paint peeling off in long strips, porch sagging on one side. Roof looked like it needed replacing 10 years ago. But the land around it was beautiful, mountains rising up to the north covered in thick pine forest. The kind of wilderness that makes you feel small, makes you remember you're not at the top of the food chain. The farmer came out as we pulled up. He was maybe 60 years old, could have been older. Hard to tell with farmers, the work ages them. His face was weathered and lined, hands thick and calloused from decades of hard work. But his eyes were what got me. They had this haunted look, dark circles underneath, the look of someone who hasn't been sleeping, who's been seeing things in the dark. He didn't shake our hands, didn't really look at us directly, just pointed toward the tree line to the north and said the attacks always came from that direction, from the ridge up there in the old forest. We could see it from where we stood, a dark line of trees rising up the mountainside. Something about it looked wrong even from a distance, like the shadows were deeper there, darker. He told us we could camp at the edge of his property, gave us some supplies he'd set aside in a wooden crate, water jugs, extra rope, fresh batteries, a first aid kit that looked well used. When I tried to ask him more details about what he'd seen, he just shook his head, said he hadn't seen anything clearly, just movement at night, shadows that didn't move right, sounds that made his dogs hide under the porch. He turned to go back inside, then stopped, stood there for a moment with his back to us. His hands were shaking. I could see them trembling at his sides. He said to be careful up there, that was all, just those 5 words. Then he went inside and we heard the deadbolt slide shut, then another deadbolt, and a third, 3 heavy locks on an interior door in the middle of nowhere. We looked at each other. My older buddy said maybe the guy was just paranoid. Living alone out here, losing animals, it can mess with your head. My younger buddy said the farmer looked terrified, like genuinely scared for his life. I said we should set up camp and start tracking in the morning, get a feel for the area in daylight before we made any decisions. The sun was getting low as we pitched our tents near the fence line. The temperature was already dropping. Gets cold fast in the mountains once the sun starts setting. We could see our breath. We built a fire using dead wood from the edge of the property, made dinner from our supplies, canned chili heated over the fire, black coffee, sat around on camping chairs talking about the plan for tomorrow. Head up toward the ridge at first light, look for tracks or scat, figure out what we were dealing with. Den locations if possible. My older buddy said we should look for the horse remains first, see what kind of damage was done. Might tell us more about the animal. If it was a bear, there would be claw marks, bite patterns. We could get an idea of its size from how it took down a 1,200-pound horse. As the darkness came on, the forest got quiet, really quiet. I've been hunting in wilderness areas my whole life, spent weeks at a time in backcountry. You get used to the sounds of the woods at night, insects buzzing and chirping, owls calling to each other, small animals moving through the brush, branches creaking in the wind. It's never actually silent. There's always something making noise. But that night there was nothing. Just the crackle of our fire and the wind in the trees, no insects, no birds, no rustling in the underbrush. It was like every living thing in that forest had gone into hiding, or left entirely. My younger buddy noticed it first. He pointed it out and we all sat there listening to the silence. It felt wrong, unnatural, oppressive, like the whole forest was holding its breath, waiting for something. I've never experienced anything like it. Even my older buddy, who usually has an explanation for everything, had no words. He just sat there staring into the fire. Around midnight, we heard something. A sound from deep in the forest to the north, from up near that ridge. It started low, deep in the chest, almost like a growl, but more guttural, like it was coming from something with a bigger chest cavity than any bear. Then it changed, rose in pitch and became something else. Not quite a howl, not quite a scream. Somewhere in between, a sound that didn't belong to any animal I'd ever heard. It echoed off the mountains and made the hair on my neck stand up, made my skin crawl. It was a primal reaction, something deep in my brain recognizing a threat, recognizing a predator, the kind of sound that makes you want to run even though you don't know what you're running from. My older buddy laughed it off, or tried to. The laugh sounded forced. He said it was probably just an elk. They make weird sounds sometimes, especially during rut, or maybe a mountain lion. They can sound almost human when they scream. My younger buddy made a joke about Bigfoot, said maybe we'd make some money selling photos to tabloids. We all laughed, but it felt hollow. That sound hadn't been right. We all knew it. We decided to turn in around 1 a.m, agreed to take shifts watching the camp just in case. Bears are opportunistic. They'll come into camps looking for food if they smell something good. I took first watch, sat by the fire feeding it logs and watching the darkness beyond the circle of light, kept my rifle across my lap, safety off. Nothing happened during my shift, just me and the fire and the oppressive silence. I kept scanning the tree line, looking for movement, listening for sounds, but there was nothing. Just darkness and silence and the feeling of being watched. That prickling sensation on the back of your neck, like eyes tracking your every movement. At 2, I woke up my older buddy and crawled into my tent, zipped it shut, lay down in my sleeping bag with my rifle beside me. But I didn't sleep well, kept waking up at every small sound. The rustle of the tent fabric in the wind, the pop of logs settling in the fire, my own breathing. And I had this feeling, this overwhelming feeling that something was out there in the dark, just beyond the firelight, watching us, waiting. We started out at first light. The morning was cold and clear, frost on the grass, our breath making clouds in the air. We heated water for instant coffee and ate protein bars for breakfast, checked our rifles, made sure we had everything, extra ammunition, water, first aid kit, flares. Then we headed north toward the ridge, following the general direction the farmer had pointed us. The plan was to look for tracks or any sign of what had been raiding his livestock. Scat, fur caught on branches, claw marks on trees, anything that would tell us what we were dealing with, whether it was a black bear, a grizzly, or something else. We spread out in a line about 20 yards apart, moved slowly and carefully, eyes scanning the ground and the trees. We found the first track about a mile from camp. My younger buddy spotted it, called us over. It was in a patch of mud near a small stream, clear as day. At first I thought it had to be wrong, that my eyes were playing tricks on me. It was huge, easily 18 inches long, maybe 8 inches wide. The shape was almost human, not like a bear at all. 5 toes with clear impressions. You could see each individual toe, a heel, an arch. But the size was impossible. Adult human footprints are maybe 12 inches long. This was half again as large. My younger buddy knelt down next to it and put his boot beside the track for scale. His size 11 boot looked small next to it. He said this had to be wrong, had to be some kind of optical illusion. My older buddy said it must be a distorted print, maybe a bear track that got stretched out when the mud dried. Or 2 prints overlapping. That made sense. Bears have tracks that can look almost human sometimes, the way their paws spread out. We convinced ourselves that was the explanation. Didn't want to consider alternatives. We took photos with our phones, measured it with a stick, then kept moving. The forest got thicker as we climbed. The pines were old growth, massive trunks 3 or 4 feet across. Branches starting 30 feet up. They blocked out most of the sunlight even though it was morning. The temperature dropped even though we were working up a sweat from the climb. Our breath came harder. The altitude was getting to us. We found more signs of something large moving through the area, broken branches hanging down at weird angles. Some of them were thick, 2 or 3 inches in diameter, snapped clean through. Not bent or weathered, broken recently, fresh wood showing in the breaks. They were hanging down at chest height, maybe 6 or 7 feet off the ground. There were deep scratches in tree bark too, long vertical gouges running up the trunks. My older buddy said they were claw marks, bear claws, but they were too high up. bears rear up on their hind legs to mark territory. Black bears can reach maybe 7 feet. Grizzlies can hit 8 feet. These scratches started at 9 feet up and went higher. Some of them reached 10 or 11 feet up the trunks. Around noon, we found the horse, or what was left of it. We could smell it before we saw it. That sweet, rotten smell of death. Decay. It was in a clearing about 50 yards off what might have been an old game trail. The body was partially covered with branches and dirt, like something had tried to bury it or cache it. Bears do that sometimes, kill something too big to eat in one sitting and cover it up. Come back later for more. But when we pulled the branches away, the damage was worse than anything I'd seen. And I've seen bears kill elk, seen mountain lions take down deer. This was different, more violent. The horse's ribs were cracked open, broken outward like something had just reached in and pulled. The sternum was shattered. The head was twisted at an angle that made my stomach turn. Neck broken so badly the head was nearly backwards. My younger buddy threw up, just turned away and vomited into the bushes. My older buddy and I stood there looking at the carcass. He said this was not normal bear behavior, the violence of it, the strength required. A 1,200-pound horse killed and broken apart like it was made of paper. The neck twisted with enough force to snap vertebrae like twigs. We found drag marks leading away from the clearing, deep furrows in the dirt. Whatever did this had dragged a 1,200-pound horse uphill for a long distance. We could see where the body had been pulled through the undergrowth, broken saplings, flattened grass, a trail of blood. The drag marks headed further up the mountain toward the ridge, toward that dark line of forest we'd seen from the farmhouse. We followed the trail. None of us said it out loud, but I think we all knew something was wrong. This wasn't normal predator behavior, the excessive violence, the strength required, the way the body had been cached but not eaten. Most of the meat was still on the bones. Whatever killed it hadn't been hungry, hadn't killed for food. It killed because it could. The higher we climbed, the stranger things got. The forest changed. The trees had these marks on them, long scratches running vertically up the trunks, way higher than any bear could reach. Some of them were 8 or 9 feet off the ground. We found another track in some soft dirt. This one was perfect, clear as day. My older buddy knelt down next to it and put his hand inside for scale. The track dwarfed his hand. 5 distinct toes, a heel, an arch, like a human footprint but massive. There was no way to explain it away this time. Nobody said anything for a long minute. Then my younger buddy said maybe we should head back, call it into wildlife services or something, let professionals handle it. But my older buddy said we were already this far, and besides, what were we going to tell them? That we found a big footprint? We kept moving, started seeing other weird things, branches that had been broken and woven together between trees, not like natural deadfall, more deliberate, almost like crude structures or markers. The silence continued. No birds, no squirrels, nothing. In the early afternoon, we came to a clearing. In the center were these large stones arranged in a rough circle. They were too big to have been moved by hand, would have taken several people or equipment. But there was no equipment up here, no roads anywhere near this part of the mountain. Inside the circle of stones were bones, lots of them, deer bones, elk bones, smaller animals too. All picked clean. Some looked old, bleached white by weather and time. Others were newer. The whole clearing smelled of decay. My younger buddy said again that we should turn back, that this was getting too weird. I almost agreed with him. But my older buddy pointed out that the sun would be setting in a few hours. We couldn't make it back to camp before dark. And I didn't like the idea of being caught in these woods at night without knowing what we were dealing with. So we pressed on, following the drag marks that continued north toward the ridge. We reached the ridge face around 4 in the afternoon. The light was already getting that golden quality it gets before sunset in the mountains. Long shadows stretching across the ground, the air temperature dropping fast. And that's when we saw it, a cave opening in the rock face, a dark mouth in the gray stone. Not huge, maybe 8 feet high and 6 feet wide at the opening, but big enough, more than big enough. The smell hit us from 20 feet away, a mixture of rot and something else, something musky and wild and animal, like a zoo smell but worse. More concentrated, more primal. It was the smell of a predator's den, of old kills and bones and death. My eyes started watering from it. My younger buddy put his hand over his nose and mouth. The drag marks led right to the entrance, disappeared into that darkness. There were more bones scattered around the opening. Some looked fresh, deer ribs with dried meat still clinging to them. A skull that might have been elk, smaller bones too, lots of them. Others had been there for years, bleached white by sun and weather, scattered across the rocky ground like fallen leaves. Some were cracked open, the marrow sucked out. The trees around the cave were dead, all of them, 10 or 12 pines in a rough circle around the entrance. Bark stripped off in long sheets, branches broken and hanging. Some of the trunks had those same deep scratches, claw marks or whatever they were, running up and down, crisscrossing, like the trees had been attacked, deliberately killed. We stood there looking at that dark entrance. None of us wanted to say it, but we all knew this was its den. Whatever had been killing the farmer's livestock lived in there, made its home in that darkness. We could see fresh tracks in the dirt near the entrance, the same massive footprints we'd been following, going in and out, recent, maybe from this morning, maybe from last night. We should have waited until morning, should have marked the location and gone back to camp, come back with better preparation, more ammunition, maybe even called for backup. But the sun was sinking fast and we needed to know what we were up against, needed to see it, identify it. Then we could make a plan, figure out how to deal with it safely. My older buddy said we should at least look inside, just to the entrance, see if we could spot anything. My younger buddy didn't like it, but he didn't argue. We were all thinking the same thing. We'd come this far, tracked this thing for miles, found its den. To turn back now without even looking felt wrong, felt like we'd wasted the whole day. So we checked our rifles, made sure we each had a round in the chamber, safeties off. We turned on our flashlights, heavy-duty mag lights that we'd brought for night hunting, good beams. We tested them, made sure the batteries were strong. Then we approached the cave entrance, moving slowly, carefully, rifles raised and ready. The cave was bigger than it looked from outside, much bigger. The ceiling rose up into darkness beyond our flashlight beams, lost in shadows. The floor was covered in bones and decomposing remains, things too far gone to identify. Just piles of organic matter in various states of decay. The smell was overwhelming, that rot smell mixed with something else, something animal and rank. I had to breathe through my mouth to keep from gagging. We moved slowly, step by careful step, keeping our lights sweeping back and forth, watching for movement, listening for sounds. The cave went back into the mountain, deeper than we expected. The walls were rough stone, natural formation, no sign of human tools or work. This cave had been here for thousands of years, maybe longer. The walls had these strange markings on them, scratches in the stone, not quite random, not quite deliberate art, something in between, lines and gouges that almost looked like they meant something, like crude writing or symbols. But nothing I recognized, nothing that made sense. They covered large sections of the rock. Some looked old, weathered, others looked newer, fresh stone showing through. The cave went back further than I expected. We walked for maybe 2 minutes, maybe longer, hard to tell time in that darkness, going deeper into the mountain. The passage narrowed in places, then opened up again. We had to duck under low sections, step over piles of bones. The floor was uneven, rocky, easy to trip if you weren't careful. Then my older buddy's light caught something ahead. He stopped. We all stopped, froze in place. There was a clearing in the cave floor, an open space maybe 15 feet across. And in that space was a nest of some kind. Branches and leaves piled up into a massive bed. It was easily 8 feet across, maybe more. The branches were thick, some as big around as my arm, all woven together, layered with pine needles and leaves, creating a crude mattress. Around the nest were more bones, skulls arranged in a pattern, not scattered randomly like the ones at the entrance. These were placed deliberately: deer skulls, elk skulls, smaller animals. Some I couldn't identify in the dim light. They formed a rough circle around the nest, like decorations or trophies or something else, something we didn't understand. My younger buddy whispered that we should leave, right now. This wasn't a normal animal den. This showed intelligence, planning, organization. Whatever lived here wasn't just an animal, it was something else. Something that arranged bones in patterns and made beds from branches. Something that marked its walls and cached its kills. That's when we heard it, a sound from deeper in the cave, beyond the range of our lights, beyond the nest, in the darkness that our beams couldn't reach. A low breathing, heavy and slow, like something large taking deep breaths, in and out, in and out. The sound echoing off the cave walls, getting louder or closer, or both. My blood went cold, every muscle in my body tensed. My finger found the trigger of my rifle. The breathing continued, steady, patient. Like whatever was making that sound knew we were there, had known since we entered the cave, was just waiting, watching us from the darkness. We froze, all 3 flashlight beams pointing into the darkness ahead. The breathing continued, then we heard movement, something large shifting position, footsteps, heavy footsteps moving toward us. My older buddy said we should get out, right now. We started backing toward the entrance, slowly, trying not to make sudden moves, but keeping our rifles raised. Then we saw the eyes. 2 points of light reflecting our flashlight beams back at us, but they were too high up. Way too high, maybe 7 feet off the ground. And they were the wrong color, not the yellow-green of a bear or mountain lion. Something amber, almost orange. The thing made a sound, a grunt that turned into a roar. The acoustics of the cave made it deafening. We broke and ran, just turned and sprinted back toward the entrance. I could hear it coming after us, heavy footfalls echoing, moving fast. I was in front, my younger buddy was behind me. My older buddy was bringing up the rear. We could see the cave entrance ahead. The fading daylight looked beautiful. Safety was right there. Then I heard my older buddy scream. I spun around just as something massive came into the beam of my flashlight. It charged out of the darkness like a freight train. I got a clear look at it for maybe 2 seconds. But those 2 seconds are burned into my brain forever. It stood at least 8 feet tall, maybe more. The body was covered in dark matted fur, brown or black, hard to tell in the flashlight. The shoulders were impossibly wide. The arms were long and muscular. But the face, God, the face. It was flat like a human face, but wrong. The brow was heavy and protruding. The eyes were deep set. The mouth was wide. When it roared, I saw teeth, large and yellow. We opened fire, all 3 of us. The sound of gunfire in that enclosed space was incredible. I saw the bullets hit it, saw the impacts on its body, but it barely slowed down, just kept coming. It swung one massive arm and caught my older buddy across the chest. The impact lifted him off his feet and sent him flying into the cave wall. I heard the crack when he hit, heard the air explode out of his lungs. My younger buddy and I ran for the entrance. We could hear the creature behind us, its roar echoing. We burst out of the cave into the fading light, kept running, but then we heard our older buddy scream. Actually scream, the sound of pure terror and pain. We stopped, turned around. He was crawling toward the entrance, blood on his face. The creature appeared behind him in the cave opening. Standing in the shadows just inside, its eyes reflected the last of the daylight. Our buddy reached out toward us, begging for help. The creature reached down and grabbed his leg, grabbed it with one massive hand and dragged him back into the darkness. He screamed, clawed at the ground, leaving marks in the dirt. Then he was gone, pulled back into that cave. We stood there, frozen, hearing the sounds from inside. The screaming stopped after maybe 10 seconds. Then we heard something worse, a crunching sound, breaking bones. The creature appeared in the entrance again, just standing there, looking at us, daring us to come back in. We started backing away, then we turned and ran. We ran blindly down the mountain. The sun was setting and the forest was getting dark fast. We could hear crashing behind us. The creature was following, pursuing us through the trees. It was fast, faster than anything that size had any right to be. We could hear it getting closer, trees splintering as it crashed through, that grunting roar echoing through the forest. My younger buddy was ahead of me. We were running downhill as fast as we could, not following any path, just trying to put distance between us and that thing. Then he hit a steep section. His foot slipped, he went down hard, started sliding down a slope. I tried to stop, but my momentum carried me over the edge. I slid after him, bouncing off rocks and roots, branches whipping my face. We tumbled maybe 30 feet before we hit the bottom, crashed into some thick brush. We lay there trying not to make a sound. Both of us were hurt. My left arm was screaming with pain. His head was bleeding. We could hear the creature at the top of the slope, could see its silhouette against the darkening sky. It stood there for a long time, looking down at where we'd fallen, making low, grunting sounds, almost like it was calling to us, trying to get us to move, to reveal our position. Then it picked up a rock, a boulder the size of a basketball. It threw the rock down the slope. The thing landed maybe 10 feet from us, crashed through the branches. If that had hit one of us, it would have killed us instantly. We stayed absolutely still, barely breathing. After what felt like hours, but was probably only 15 minutes, we heard the creature move away, its footsteps fading into the distance. We waited until it was fully dark before we moved. My buddy had a concussion, could barely stand. I helped him up and we started making our way down the mountain, using the moon for light. Every sound made us freeze in terror. My arm was bad, really bad. The bones were probably broken. Every step sent waves of pain through me. But we had to keep moving, had to get off this mountain. The trip down took hours. Ground that had taken us minutes to cover in daylight now took forever. We got lost twice, had to backtrack and find another way down. My buddy kept fading in and out. I had to keep him focused, keep him moving. Around midnight, we heard it again. That call from somewhere up the mountain, that same sound we'd heard our first night. But then we heard something that made my blood turn to ice. An answer from a different direction, then another answer from somewhere to our east. There was more than one of them. We were being herded, driven down the mountain by multiple creatures calling to each other in the darkness. We moved faster, as fast as my buddy could manage. I kept my pistol in my good hand. The rifle was lost somewhere back on the mountain. We stumbled through the forest, falling, getting back up, driven by pure terror. We saw the lights from the farmhouse around 2 a.m. We were maybe half a mile away, still in the forest. Those lights looked like heaven, safety, civilization. We started moving faster, almost running. We could see the fence line ahead, the edge of the farmer's property, just 50 more yards. We were going to make it. Then we heard it behind us, close, too close. The sound of something large crashing through the brush. We ran. My buddy was ahead of me. I pushed him forward, told him to go, to not stop. We were 20 yards from the fence when it caught us. I heard my buddy scream, turned around. The creature had him, had lifted him off the ground with both hands, holding him up like he weighed nothing. I raised my pistol and fired, emptied the magazine into its body, aiming for the head. One of the shots must have hit something vital because it made this sound, this roar of pain and rage. It dropped my buddy and grabbed at its face. I grabbed my buddy and we crawled under the fence. My arm gave out, collapsed under me. We both fell. But we were on the other side, off the mountain, on the farmer's property. The creature stood at the fence line, just stood there, watching us, blood running down his face from where I'd shot it. Its eyes reflected the light from the farmhouse. We scrambled to our feet and ran for the house. We pounded on the farmer's door, screaming for help. He opened it and his face went white when he saw us, covered in blood and dirt. Both of us injured. He pulled us inside and slammed the door, through the deadbolt. Then he moved a heavy cabinet in front of the door. He just looked at us and said quietly that he tried to warn us, that he'd tried to tell us not to go up there. He said he'd lost 2 ranch hands last year the same way, that he knew what was up on that mountain, that everyone around here knew but nobody talked about it. The creature appeared at the edge of the property. We could see it through the window, standing in the moonlight, just watching the house. The farmer told us not to look at it, to not make eye contact, to not engage. It stood there for maybe 5 minutes. Then it turned and walked back into the forest, vanished into the trees like it had never been there. The farmer grabbed his phone and called for help. Then he tended to our injuries as best he could until the paramedics arrived. The paramedics got there around 4 a.m, 2 teams. They stabilized us in the farmhouse, started IVS, gave us painkillers, wrapped my arm in a temporary splint, put a cervical collar on my buddy to protect his neck. His pupils were different sizes, a bad sign. They called for a helicopter, said we needed to get to a trauma center fast, too far to drive. The helicopter arrived 20 minutes later, landed in the farmer's pasture. The noise was incredible. Rotor wash, kicking up dust and debris. They loaded us on stretchers, strapped us down. 1 paramedic stayed with each of us. They started more IVS during the flight, pushed more drugs. My buddy was unconscious by then, out cold. The paramedic kept checking his vitals, kept talking to the pilot, using words I didn't understand. Medical terms, trauma codes. We were airlifted to a hospital in Boise, arrived just as the sun was coming up. A whole team was waiting, doctors and nurses. They wheeled us directly to the ER, split us up. My buddy went one direction, I went another. I tried to tell them about our friend, about him still being up on the mountain, but they were focused on saving us, dealing with our injuries. They'd worry about him later. They did X-rays on my arm, CT scans. The fracture was bad, compound. The bone had torn through the muscle and punctured the skin. There was dirt and debris in the wound, forest matter. They cleaned it out as best they could, put me under general anesthesia for the first surgery. When I woke up, my arm was in an external fixation device, metal rods going through the skin into the bone, holding everything in place. But infection had already set in by the time they got me on the table. The wound had been open for hours, exposed to everything on that mountain, bacteria, fungi, who knows what else. They started me on heavy antibiotics. pumped me full of drugs. But it wasn't enough. The infection spread, got into the bone, into the bloodstream. They did 3 more surgeries over the next 2 days, trying to clean it out, trying to save the arm. On the 3rd day, the surgeon came in, an older man with kind eyes. He sat down next to my bed and explained the situation. The infection was too widespread, too aggressive. It was traveling up my arm, getting into my shoulder. If they didn't act fast, it would reach my chest, my heart. I'd go septic. Die from blood poisoning. There was only one option left: amputation. They took it off below the elbow 2 days later, 5 days after the attack. I was awake for this surgery, regional anesthesia. They numbed everything from the shoulder down, but I was conscious, could feel the pressure, could hear the saw, the smell of burning bone. It took maybe an hour. When they were done, my arm ended at the elbow, wrapped in bandages. Gone. My buddy was in the ICU, severe concussion, multiple fractures. They'd done emergency surgery to relieve pressure on his brain, drilled a hole in his skull to let the swelling go down. He was in a medically induced coma for the first week. When they finally woke him up, he wasn't the same. Wouldn't talk, wouldn't respond to questions, just stared at nothing. The doctor said it was psychological trauma, that his brain had shut down to protect itself from what he'd seen. Search and rescue went looking for our buddy. They assembled a team 2 days after we were brought in, 20 people, dogs, helicopters. They spent 2 weeks combing that mountain. They found the cave, went inside with floodlights and cameras, found bones and blood, found evidence of violence, but they never found his body, not a trace, no clothing, no equipment, nothing. It was like he'd vanished, disappeared into that mountain without a trace. The official report says, bear attack. They closed the case after 2 weeks, said the bears in that area are known to be aggressive, that we probably stumbled on a den, startled a mother with cubs, standard wildlife encounter gone wrong. The fact that they never found the body was attributed to scavengers, other bears, mountain lions, coyotes. Said in 2 weeks there wouldn't be much left. The forest reclaims everything eventually. They asked me questions, lots of questions, park rangers, local police, federal wildlife officers. What did we see? What did it look like? How big was it? I tried to tell them the truth, described what attacked us, the size, the shape, the bipedal movement. They just looked at each other and made notes, asked if I'd hit my head, if I'd been given any medications that might affect my memory, suggested that trauma can make us see things, remember things differently than they happened. Eventually, I stopped trying, stopped telling the truth, just agreed with whatever they said. Yes, it was probably a bear. Yes, I was confused. Yes, the darkness and fear made everything seem bigger than it was. They seemed relieved, happy to close the case and move on, file it away as just another wildlife encounter, another tragedy in the wilderness. Happens every year somewhere. My buddy was transferred to a psychiatric facility 3 weeks after the attack. Still not talking, still not responding. They diagnosed him with severe post-traumatic stress disorder, catatonic state brought on by extreme psychological trauma. Said it might be weeks before he came out of it, might be months, might be never. His family visits him every day, sits with him, talks to him, but he never responds, never even acknowledges they're there. The farmer sold his property within a month. I heard it through the grapevine. Someone at the hospital knew someone who knew him, said he packed up everything and left. Didn't even wait for the sale to finalize, just abandoned the place and drove away. Told the realtor to mail him the check wherever it finally sold. The new owners are from California, city people looking for a quiet place in the mountains. They have no idea what's up there, what lives in those woods, what killed their predecessors' livestock. I tried calling the farmer a few times, got his number from the realtor, but it was disconnected, no forwarding information. He vanished just like our friend, disappeared without a trace, leaving no way to contact him, no way to ask him what he knew, what he'd seen, why he didn't warn us better, why he let us go up there at all. So now I'm here, in this hospital room, learning to write left-handed because my right arm ends at the elbow now, still having nightmares every time I close my eyes, still seeing those amber eyes staring at me from the darkness. My buddy is 2 wings over staring at walls. Our third buddy is somewhere on that mountain, scattered in pieces across a cave floor, and everyone thinks it was a bear. The doctors, the authorities, our families, they all think it was just a bear attack, a tragic accident, bad luck. But I know the truth. I know what's up there in those Idaho mountains. I know what walks on 2 legs and stands 8 feet tall and drags horses into caves. I know what those massive footprints belong to. People talk about Bigfoot like it's a joke, like it's something fun to speculate about, a cryptid, a legend, something to make documentaries about and sell t-shirts. But it's not a legend, it's real, and it's up there right now, probably dragging some other animal back to that cave, adding more bones to its collection. So if you ever get a call from a desperate farmer offering good money to hunt something in the mountains, if he sounds scared but won't tell you why, if he warns you about a specific area but won't explain, listen to him, turn around, go home. Because some hunts aren't worth taking, some animals shouldn't be found, and some things hunting in the mountains aren't bears at all. There's something much worse. For more interesting stories, check this out.